The storm hit Millbrook Harbor like God's own tantrum, and I was sitting in my attic office watching my wife Celeste stumble through our front door at 2 in the morning, reeking of expensive cologne that definitely wasn't mine. She was giggling at her phone, probably at another group chat message calling me a wallet on legs. I'm Owen Callahan, 43 years old, freelance copywriter, and apparently the town's biggest fool. At least, that's what I thought until tonight. Owen? Celeste called up the stairs, her voice slurred with wine and secrets. You awake, honey? Honey. Right. I'd been honey, sweetheart, and darling for 12 years of marriage. But lately, I'd noticed the endearments only came out when she needed something, or felt guilty about something. Just working, I called back, minimizing the browser window where I'd been scrolling through social media. Becca Morrison, Celeste's best friend and the agency's gossip queen, had posted photos from tonight's girls' night at the Gull's End pub. The same girls' night Celeste claimed she'd missed due to a client emergency. Funny thing about lies, they leave digital footprints. I heard Celeste in the kitchen, whispering to someone on the phone. Her voice carried that particular tone she used when she thought she was being clever. He's so pathetic, she was saying. Blake makes me feel alive again. Owen just exists. Blake Frazier, the flashy real estate developer with the Tesla and the glass condo overlooking the harbor. I'd met him at a few town events. The kind of guy who wore expensive watches and talked loudly about his deals. The kitchen went quiet. Then I heard Celeste climbing the stairs, her heels clicking against the hardwood like a countdown timer. She appeared in my doorway, still beautiful at 38, but there was something cold in her green eyes now. Something that hadn't been there when we'd gotten married in this same house, back when it was just a fixer-upper and a dream. Working late again? She asked, leaning against the doorframe. Client deadline, I said, not looking up from my laptop. How was your emergency meeting? Exhausting. She didn't even blink. I'm going to shower. As she walked away, something fell from her purse. A key I'd never seen before. Silver with a distinctive lighthouse-shaped keychain that matched the design of Harbor Point condominiums. Blake's building. I picked up the key and felt something shift inside me. Not heartbreak, that would come later. This was something colder, more calculating. The next morning I drove to Sam's IT repair shop on Harbor Street. Sam Kowalski had been my friend since high school, back when we were both nobody special in a town full of nobody specials. He'd gotten into computers. I'd gotten into words. We'd both stayed in Millbrook Harbor while everyone else fled to Boston or New York. Owen! Sam looked up from a dismantled laptop, his gray beard flecked with coffee stains. What brings you to my digital graveyard? I need a favor, I said, pulling out Celeste's spare phone, the one she thought I didn't know about. Can you clone this? Sam's eyebrows shot up. That's legally gray territory, my friend. She's cheating, Sam. I just need proof. He studied my face for a long moment, then nodded. Give me an hour. While Sam worked his magic, I walked down to the Gull's End. The pub smelled like fish and regret, with a view of the harbor that made you forget your troubles if you drank enough. Frankie Delacroix, the bartender and former cop, was wiping down glasses with the methodical precision of a man who'd seen too much. Whiskey? He asked. Information, I said. About Blake Frazier. Frankie's hand stopped moving. What kind of information? The kind that might interest a man whose wife has been lying about where she spends her evenings. Ah. Frankie set down the glass. Blake was here Tuesday night, with a blonde woman. Wasn't his usual type, classier. They were affectionate, Tuesday, the night Celeste said she was working late on the Morrison account. They left together around 11, Frankie continued, headed toward Harbor Point. I thanked him and walked back to Sam's shop, where my friend handed me Celeste's phone and a small device. GPS tracker, he explained. Magnetic, sticks to any car. Battery lasts 2 weeks. That evening, I followed Blake's Tesla to Harbor Point condominiums. The building was all glass and steel, the kind of place that screamed new money and insecurity. I planted the tracker under his rear bumper, then positioned myself across the street with a camera. At 8:47 p.m., Celeste's BMW pulled into the parking garage. At 9:15 p.m., I had photos of my wife and Blake Frazier embracing on his 20th floor balcony. At 9:16 p.m., I stopped being the town fool and started being something else entirely. The next few days were a masterclass in surveillance and patience. The cloned phone revealed everything. Text messages planning their meetings, voice memos where Celeste and Becca laughed about my pathetic loyalty, even recordings of their intimate moments that made my stomach turn. But the real revelation came from Mrs. Dorsey, our 70-year-old neighbor who knew everyone's business before they did. "Your wife's been house hunting," she told me over the fence while watering her roses. "Saw her with that realtor Blake at 3 different properties this week. Expensive ones, cash offers. Cash offers. With what money?" "I handled our finances. Unless I checked our accounts that night." Celeste had been siphoning money from our joint savings for months, moving it to an account I didn't know existed. She wasn't just cheating, she was planning to leave, and she was stealing from me to do it. The rage that hit me was pure and clean, like lightning striking water. On Friday, Celeste came home early from work, practically glowing with excitement. "We need to talk," she said, settling onto our couch like a queen on her throne. "About what?" I asked, though I knew. "I'm not happy, Owen. I haven't been happy for a long time." "I see." I sat across from her, studying her face. "And what would make you happy?" "I think we should separate. Take some time apart. Figure out what we really want." "And what do you really want, Celeste?" She had the grace to look slightly uncomfortable. "I want to feel alive again. You're a good man, Owen, but you're safe, predictable. I need more." "More like Blake Frazier?" The color drained from her face. "What?" I pulled out the silver key with the lighthouse keychain. "You dropped this Tuesday night, when you came home from your client emergency." She stared at the key like it was a venomous snake. "Owen, I can explain. Can you explain this too?" I showed her my phone with the photos from Blake's balcony. Her composure cracked. "You followed me? You spied on me?" "I investigated my wife's lies. There's a difference." She stood up, pacing to the window. "Fine. Yes, I'm seeing Blake. Yes, I have a key to his place. But our marriage has been dead for years, Owen. We're just going through the motions. Our marriage was fine until you decided to steal from our savings account to fund your new life." She spun around. "You know about that?" "I know about everything, Celeste. The question is, what are we going to do about it?" She straightened her shoulders, and I saw the woman who'd climbed from small-town nobody to creative director in 5 years. Cold, calculating, ruthless. "You're too weak to do anything," she said. "You'll forgive me because that's who you are. The loyal dog who comes back no matter how many times he gets kicked." I smiled, and something in my expression made her take a step back. "You're right about one thing," I said. "I am loyal. But you know what happens when a loyal dog finally bites back? Owen, it draws blood." The next Monday morning, I put my plan into action. Celeste had a major presentation at the agency. The Morrison account she'd been working late on for months. The same account that could make or break her career. I arrived at Morrison and Associates at 9:30 a.m., carrying a large bouquet and wearing my best suit. The receptionist smiled when I explained I wanted to surprise my wife with flowers for her big presentation. "Conference room A," she said. "They started about 10 minutes ago." Perfect timing. I walked into the conference room just as Celeste was explaining her creative vision to the Morrison executives. She looked stunning in her navy suit, commanding the room with the confidence that had first attracted me to her. "Excuse me," I said, stepping into the room. Sorry to interrupt, but I have a delivery for Celeste Callahan. Celeste's face went white. Owen, what are you? Congratulations on your engagement, I announced loudly, handing her the flowers. I thought everyone should know about your exciting news. The room went silent. Mr. Morrison, a stern man in his 60s, frowned. Engagement? Celeste, I thought you were married. I am, she stammered. Owen, what are you doing? Oh, silly me, I said, pulling out my phone. I meant your engagement with Blake Frazier. Here, let me show everyone the happy couple. I connected my phone to the conference room's projector system, a skill I'd learned from Sam, and suddenly the wall was filled with photos of Celeste and Blake in passionate embrace on his balcony. The room erupted. Morrison's face turned purple. Celeste lunged for my phone, but I was already heading for the door. Congratulations again, darling, I called over my shoulder. I hope you'll be very happy together. I was in my car and driving away when my phone started buzzing with calls from Celeste. I let them all go to voicemail. Phase 1. Complete. Phase 2 began that afternoon. I drove to Blake's office at Frazier Development, where he was meeting with his business partner, Jim Crawford. Through the glass walls, I could see Blake gesticulating wildly while Crawford shook his head. I walked into the reception area and asked to speak with Crawford privately. I'm afraid he's in a meeting, the secretary said. Tell him it's about Blake's financial situation. I think he'll want to hear what I have to say. 5 minutes later, Crawford emerged from Blake's office, his face grim. You're Owen Callahan, he said. It wasn't a question. I am. And you're about to discover that your business partner has been lying to you about more than just his affair with my wife. I handed him a folder containing bank statements, property records, and loan documents that Sam had helped me compile. Blake wasn't just a cheater. He was leveraged to the hilt, using company assets as collateral for personal investments that were failing spectacularly. How did you get these? Crawford asked, flipping through the documents. Public records, mostly. Amazing what you can find when you know where to look. Crawford's face hardened as he read. Bastard has been lying to me for months. I thought you should know before you signed that new development deal tomorrow. There won't be any new deal, Crawford said grimly. There might not be any partnership, period. I left Crawford's office feeling lighter than I had in months. My phone was still buzzing with increasingly frantic calls from Celeste, but I ignored them all. By evening, the whole town was talking. Mrs. Dorsey called to tell me that Celeste had been fired from the agency. Apparently, Morrison had discovered she'd been billing personal expenses to client accounts for months. Blake's Tesla had been repossessed from the Harbor Point parking garage, and there were rumors that Frazier Development was filing for bankruptcy. I was at the Gull's End, celebrating with a whiskey, when Becca Morrison stormed in. You bastard! She snarled, marching up to my table. You destroyed her career. You destroyed everything. I didn't destroy anything, I said calmly. I just revealed what was already there. She loved you, Owen. Despite everything, she loved you. No, I said, standing up to face her. She loved my stability, my predictability, my willingness to be walked on, but she never loved me. You're pathetic, Becca spat. A pathetic little man who couldn't handle losing his wife to a better man. I smiled. You know, Becca, you're right. I am pathetic, but at least I'm not unemployed. Her face went pale. What? Oh, didn't you hear? Morrison fired you too. Apparently, someone sent them recordings of you laughing about their clients, calling them small-town idiots with more money than taste. Funny thing about phones, they record everything, even when you don't realize it. Becca's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. Then she turned and fled the bar, leaving me alone with my whiskey and my satisfaction. The final confrontation came 2 days later. Celeste showed up at our house. Her house too, technically, though not for much longer, looking haggard and desperate. She'd been staying at a motel since Blake couldn't afford his condo anymore. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me into the living room. "I think we've said everything that needs saying. Please, Owen. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work through our problems." "Work through what problems? Your theft? Your adultery? Your complete lack of respect for our marriage?" She started crying then, real tears that might have moved me a week ago. "I made mistakes. I know that, but I'm willing to fight for us. You're willing to fight now that you have nowhere else to go. That's not true, isn't it? Blake's broke, Becca's unemployed, and you're blackballed from every agency in the state. Suddenly, boring old Owen doesn't look so bad, does he?" She wiped her eyes, and I saw a flash of the old Celeste, the calculating one. "Fine. You want to play hardball? I'll take half of everything in the divorce. The house, the savings, your retirement accounts. I'll make sure you have nothing left." I laughed, actually laughed, and the sound made her flinch. "What's so funny?" she demanded. "You still don't get it, do you? You think I'm the same pathetic man you've been walking on for years. But that man is gone, Celeste. You killed him." I pulled out a thick manila folder and set it on the coffee table between us. "What's that?" she asked. "Evidence. Bank records showing your theft, photos and recordings of your affair, documentation of your expense account fraud at Morrison. Enough to have you charged with embezzlement and adultery, which, in case you forgot, is still grounds for divorce in Maine." Her face went white. "You wouldn't. Try me." She stared at the folder like it contained a bomb. "What do you want?" "I want you gone. Tonight. You sign a simple divorce agreement. No alimony, no claim to the house or my retirement accounts. You take your personal belongings and you disappear from my life forever. And if I don't, then I give this folder to the police and the State Bar Association. You'll be facing criminal charges and disbarment proceedings. Your choice." She was quiet for a long time, staring out the window at the harbor where she'd once planned to build a new life with Blake. "I never meant for it to happen this way," she said finally. "Yes, you did. You just never meant to get caught." She signed the papers with shaking hands, her signature a shadow of its former confident flourish. As she packed her things, I sat in my attic office, watching the storm clouds gather over the harbor. "Owen?" she called from downstairs. I didn't answer. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice carrying up through the old house. "For whatever that's worth." I heard the front door close, then her car starting in the driveway. Through my window, I watched her BMW disappear down Harbor Street, taking 12 years of marriage and all my illusions with it. But as I sat there in the gathering darkness, I realized I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry anymore either. I was something else entirely, something I hadn't been in years. I was free. The epilogue wrote itself over the next few weeks. Blake left town after his business collapsed, reportedly heading to Florida to start over. Becca moved back in with her parents and took a job at the grocery store. Celeste vanished completely. Some said she'd gone to Boston, others claimed she'd moved to California. I didn't care where she went, as long as it was far from Millbrook Harbor. Mrs. Dorsey stopped by one evening with a casserole and the latest gossip. "You know," she said, settling into my kitchen chair like she belonged there, "folks are saying you got the last laugh after all." "Are they?" "Oh yes, Blake Frazier thinking he was so much better than everyone else. Your wife, acting like she was too good for this town. They got what was coming to them." I smiled and offered her coffee. Sometimes the quiet ones surprise you. Indeed they do, Owen. Indeed they do. As she left, I walked out to my back porch and looked out over the harbor. The storm had passed, leaving the water calm and silver in the moonlight. Tomorrow, I'd start looking for a new job, maybe even leave Millbrook Harbor myself. The world was full of possibilities now. But tonight, I was content to sit in the silence of my empty house and remember the look on Celeste's face when she realized that her loyal dog had finally learned to bite. Sometimes the last laugh really is the best laugh. Laugh, laugh, laugh.